Hello, everyone. I'm so excited today. I hope you'll stick around for this. We've got Dr. Michelle Harrison, all the way from India. She's the leader, the secretary of the board for an organization called Shisur Sevay, where she's helping young women with some grave disabilities. Really an inspirational story. So stick around. You don't want to miss this.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Michelle, welcome to the show. Michelle, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Great,
I'm on.
great. We're thrilled to have you today. Thanks for joining us. So tell us a little bit about the girls that are part of your program.
Okay. The girls that I was looking for were the children who were in the government institution, who were full orphans, namely all contact with family, community had been lost. There was no trace. And the ones who were in the government institution were the ones basically no one else would take, not even the NGOs, because mostly they wanted children they could turn over when they reached 18. And that's exactly who I was looking for, because I kept hearing in Calcutta, nothing can be done. Nothing can be done. And I thought, this is absurd. I can at least show what can be done. I can't do something huge. I can't take care of all the children, but I can refute that nothing can be done. The children I took had all been reviewed for adoption and turned down. So they truly were the ones whose lives would have been spent in the institution, where there's also a very high mortality rate for the ones who are disabled. And that's who I started with. It was like, give me the kids nobody else wants, and let me see what I can do. I have this belief that much can be done. Let me see what I can do.
Your girls generally have some fairly severe disabilities. I think most would have cerebral palsy in fairly severe cases. Is that right?
Yeah, it's actually about half and half, because I didn't specify disability. Mm-hmm. And initially they were going to give me just girls without disability, and then asked me, they said, we have some children here with severe disabilities. Would you help us out? Maybe take one or two. And they showed me 4. And I said, I can't choose. I'll take all 4. So it was an amazing experience to take these children and see the way they have thrived. When I took the ones with disabilities to the pediatrician the first time, she thought she was reassuring me, and she said, well, at least they won't live very long. Oh. And I mean, 12 years later, they are blossoming, all of them. 2 of them use a computer. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Well, tell us about the way you're using that computer. It's kind of an interesting development, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's a technology I've been following for a number of years. Our girls with cerebral palsy don't even have enough fine motor control to manage a specialized keyboard. And so basically the machines that were available, the technology was not something they could use. And yet they both wanted to communicate. One was desperate to communicate. And I've been following the technology, and the technology is for eye tracking. It was developed, I think, originally for gaming, so that there's a tracking of the eyes with infrared, and that causes the movement in the computer. It controls where, for instance, where the cursor goes, and there's a software that's been developed so that if the person looks at a certain place on the computer, then that generates the speech and a printed word on the screen. And so a child who has no way of speaking is able to talk to visitors when they come, is able to say, I'm hungry, is able to say, I had a bad dream last night, is able to say, I'm worried about something, where I want to go, what I want to be doing. And these are kids who are usually totally locked in. I mean, they never, ever tell anyone what they dream. They live with all of that inside.
So it's a transformative experience for them.
Totally transformative. And when I started, there weren't any available in India. I mean, no one had them. And so I knew it was going to be a risk. I couldn't try one out somewhere. And I didn't even look for donations. I just thought, if I get it and it doesn't work, what am I going to do? So I just dug deeper in my own pocket and I said, okay, if it doesn't work, I'm never going to tell anybody that I tried it. But it did work, and it's just been, it's really been quite amazing.
That is amazing, very inspiring. So,
yes. And these were kids that nobody thought would live and nobody wanted.
yeah, really, really inspiring. You're providing essentially everything for the girls in your program. You're
Right.
providing housing, food, clothing, medical care, education, everything, right?
Right, yes, yes.
And I was stunned by the budget. Of course, you're in India and labor is a little cheaper there, but
Yes.
how much is your annual budget?
The annual budget is $75,000. It comes to $5,000 per child per year. And in the US, the government figures put that the cost in the US of institutional care around $70,000 a year. And private places are 2 and 3 times that. The other thing is that our staff is really skilled in taking care of these children because they do have a high mortality rate from choking, infections, GI problems, lung problems, and they really need special feeding with special techniques. Our kids are bathed twice a day. They have to be kept very clean. We have a very clean facility. And the challenge for me really was in saying this can be done in India. I mean, I can go back to how all of this started, namely, aside from my life interest and my being a physician. In 1984, I adopted a baby from Calcutta. I was a single parent. I wanted another child. I was living in Boston, and I adopted a baby. And I always wondered what happens to the children left behind. And I raised her, I mean, I kept her in touch with Indian communities and all of that. And we have a very good relationship, but there's a loss. There's a loss of identity, culture, religion. And I thought, I mean, when she was 16, we came to visit Calcutta. And I thought, why can't this be done here? Why can't some of that be replicated, what we're able to do with the children in the US when they're sent abroad and they thrive? Why can't that be done here? And what I found is that mostly people just assumed it couldn't be done. They assumed that these children by birth were not destined to do well. And so there was no point trying. And that was really what I just said, no,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I just.
So what are you most proud of having accomplished, Michelle?
It's, I had an idea. I had a belief, which I've had all my life. And I made it happen. In other words, there was a moment when I said to myself, Michelle, you've always been a critic. See if you can do any better. And I did. I took that challenge. I had spent some years in the corporate environment also. And part of it for me was, how do I take my limited, relatively small savings, and how do you turn an idea and money into something that exists on its own? And this whole thing didn't exist. It was a dream. And it was a dream that I put money to and that I put a lifetime of skills to, and that I adapted as we went along. I mean, I think one of the unique things about us is that it was always about the end user. In other words, I had theories along the way that turned out to be useless. And it was always go back to the kids. What do they need? How can I provide it? And I think that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to prove that this could be done.
What is the most important lesson you've learned?
I made it a better mousetrap. I'm stubborn. I'm strong. Sometimes it hurts, but I'm able to get over lots of obstacles. Then it takes hard work, and I'm committed to it, and I don't give up. I mean, that's, and it works. I mean, the biggest lesson is I'm as effective as I hoped I would be.
That's great.
Yeah.
As you reflect on this, certainly there are a lot of people who've had similar experiences to yours, but who didn't choose to tackle the situation the way you did. Why do you think you feel so personally responsible to make a difference in the lives of these girls?
First of all, I think I was born this way, and I'm not kidding. When I was 17 and in high school, a friend had just returned from the Korean War. He was a soldier, a kid, and he showed me pictures of Korean orphans. And I wrote an essay for school about the meaning of life and a commitment to taking care of orphans. And I finished it off by saying, if you know you were right, you will have the confidence and strength to overcome the obstacles. And I was 17 when I wrote that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. What is your superpower, Michelle?
What's my superpower? I feel driven to do good, to spend this life, which I consider a gift, in ways so that at the end, if I'm asked, did you make good use of your time? Yes. I'm very intuitive. I often know what's about to happen. I can anticipate people's reactions. When I was delivering babies, I used to have dreams that predicted what was going to happen in the delivery. And it was published in a what's it, Mother and something, Birth and Motherhood. years ago. I have a sense of what's happening in the world, what's happening around me. I can anticipate, prepare. I've had very few surprises, and lots of things have gone wrong, but none of them have been beyond what I anticipated.
That's terrific. Well, Michelle, we're certainly grateful that you would take the time to be with us today. And I know it's getting late there in India as we record this. Before we go, I wonder if you'd take just a minute and tell us a little bit more about how people can learn more about what you do at Shisur Sevay and how they can connect with you personally.
Sure. Well, we're active on social media. We have on Facebook, we have a Shisur Sevay page, and my page is on Facebook also, Michelle Harrison, and it's public. Everything on there is public. We're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and so is Shisur Sevay. We have a website, www.shisursevay.org, and I have a blog that is www.shisursevay.com. And my personal email is it's Dr. Michelle Harrison, Dr. Michelle Harrison @gmail.com.
Fantastic.
And I answer mail.
Oh, great. Michelle, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. We wish you every success in the great work you're doing to help those young women in Calcutta.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty. Let's do some good.
Thank you for listening. Devin Thorpe's mission is to end extreme poverty, improve global health, and mitigate climate change before 2045 by finding and sharing the stories of those who are doing the most good. You can join with other listeners to accelerate Devin's mission by visiting helpdevin.org right now.